Stay with this story until the very last line, because the moment everything flips will leave you speechless. And if stories about justice, second chances, and hidden greatness move you even a little, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because stories like this remind us who we really are. Red Heart. The lunch rush at Le Claire Maison sounded like a battlefield disguised as elegance, knives hammering against boards, pans screaming over open flame, waiters weaving through chaos with forced smiles. In the center of it all stood Chef Laurent Bouchard, a Michelin star legend whose reputation was sharper than the blades in his kitchen. People said he could taste a sauce and tell you the chef's childhood trauma. And today, he was furious. "Who plated this?" he barked, holding up a dish like it had personally insulted his ancestors. No one spoke. His eyes landed on the sink area, the one place he rarely looked, where a young dishwasher was quietly stacking plates with mechanical precision. "You," Laurent snapped. "What's your name?" The young man looked up slowly. He was maybe 24, thin but not fragile, with tired eyes that didn't match his age. "Daniel, chef." "Well, Daniel," Laurent said, voice dripping with contempt, "even a dishwasher should know when a plate is dirty. Or is that too complicated?" A few cooks chuckled nervously. Daniel simply nodded. "I'll rewash it, chef." Laurent rolled his eyes. "Of course you will. It's the only thing you're qualified for." The words stung the room more than the heat. But Daniel didn't react. He just turned back to the sink, scrubbing as if the world depended on it. 2 hours later, the world did. It began with a phone call, one that made Laurent's face drain of color mid-service. The investors from Paris had arrived early. "Not tomorrow. Not tonight. Now." And they weren't alone, a famous critic was with them, someone whose reviews could make or destroy empires. "Private tasting," the manager whispered urgently. 7 courses. Immediately. Laurent inhaled sharply. 7 courses meant absolute perfection. It meant choreography, timing, precision. It meant pressure. "Fine," he said. "We'll show them why this place has a star." But stress fractures spread quickly. A sous chef sliced his palm open on a mandolin. Another cook burned a sauce past saving. A tray of delicate pastries collapsed when someone bumped the counter. Laurent's control, the iron grip that held everything together, began to slip. "Focus," he shouted, but his own hands trembled. Then came the worst blow. His head sous chef, Marco, the one person who could run the kitchen as well as he could, doubled over, pale and sweating. "Food poisoning," Marco gasped before being rushed out. Silence fell like a dropped knife. Without Marco, the kitchen had no second brain. No one to coordinate timing. No one to keep order while Laurent cooked. For the first time in years, Chef Laurent Bouchard looked lost. Orders piled up. Pans burned. Voices overlapped into noise. And then, from the dish station, a calm voice cut through it all. "Chef." Laurent turned, irritation flashing. "What now?" Daniel stepped forward, drying his hands on his apron. "If you fire the sea base now, it'll be ready at the same time as the risotto. But the lamb needs 4 more minutes resting or it'll bleed on the plate." The room froze. Laurent stared at him. "Excuse me?" Daniel didn't flinch. "Also, your reduction is about to split." Laurent spun back to the stove and cursed under his breath. The sauce was seconds from ruin. "How?" he stopped himself. "Get back to the sink." Daniel hesitated, then returned. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Minutes later, chaos surged again. Timing collapsed. Plates collided. "Chef," Daniel said quietly from behind him, "if you want, I can call tickets." Laurent turned slowly. "You?" "I used to," Daniel said simply. "Used to what?" Laurent didn't ask. He didn't have time. "Fine," he snapped. "One mistake and you're out." Daniel stepped to the pass. And everything changed. His voice wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was steady, like a metronome bringing musicians back into rhythm. 2 duck, 1 medium rare, 1 medium. Fire scallops in 30 seconds. Garnish team ready in 1 minute. The kitchen stilled. Then moved. Not frantically, purposefully. Laurent watched in disbelief as timing reassembled itself around this dishwasher like iron filings around a magnet. Sauce team, hold, Daniel said. Not yet. Laurent almost objected, then saw why. The plating station wasn't ready. If they'd poured early, the dishes would have cooled. Daniel glanced at him. Now, chef. Laurent poured. Perfect. Course after course flowed out, each one landing on the pass at exactly the right moment, like pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. The investors' table sent back empty plates. No complaints. No returns. Just silence, the best sound a chef could hope for. By the final course, the kitchen was no longer drowning. It was flying. When the last dessert left the pass, a wave of exhausted relief washed over the staff. Some leaned against counters. Others laughed shakily. Laurent stood very still. Then he turned to Daniel. Who are you? He asked, not harshly this time, but genuinely. Daniel looked down at his hands, red from hours in hot water. I went to culinary school, he said quietly. Top of my class. The room went silent again. What happened? Laurent asked. Daniel swallowed. My mother got sick. Cancer. I left school to work. When she passed, I tried to go back, but I couldn't afford it anymore. No one hires someone without experience, so I took the only job I could. He gestured to the sink. Laurent felt something unfamiliar twist in his chest. All this time, genius had been standing in dishwater. Why didn't you say anything? He asked. Daniel gave a small, tired smile. No one was listening. The words landed harder than any insult Laurent had ever delivered. Because they were true. He thought of the way he'd mocked him. Dismissed him. Reduced him to something less than human. And yet, when everything fell apart, the same man stepped forward and saved them all. Not for recognition. Not for revenge. Just because the kitchen needed him. Laurent removed his chef's jacket, the symbol of his authority, his ego, his identity, and held it out. Tomorrow, he said, voice rough, you start on the line. Gasps rippled through the staff. Daniel blinked. Chef. I don't. You do, Laurent interrupted. And today you proved it. Daniel didn't take the jacket immediately. Are you sure? He asked softly. Laurent nodded once. I've spent years believing greatness comes from titles. Stars. Awards. He looked around the kitchen at the people who kept it alive. But today I learned it can be standing at a sink, waiting for someone to notice. Daniel finally took the jacket. His hands trembled. Not from fear. From possibility. That night, after the investors left, impressed beyond expectation, Laurent stood alone in the quiet kitchen. The stainless steel surfaces reflected a man who suddenly looked older, and maybe wiser. He realized something painful. The best chef in the room hadn't been him. It had been the man he never bothered to see. The next day, Daniel arrived early. Not in a dish apron, but in a crisp white jacket, slightly too big, but worn with quiet pride. Some staff watched skeptically. Others smiled. Laurent handed him a knife roll. Let's see what you can really do. Daniel stepped to the station. And the way he moved, precise, respectful, focused, told everyone this wasn't charity. This was correction. Weeks later, a new dish appeared on the menu. It became the most requested item in the restaurant's history. Underneath the description, for the first time ever, Laurent added a second name. Chef Daniel Reyes. When a reporter asked why, Laurent simply said, because brilliance doesn't need permission. Only opportunity. So if this story touched you even a little, if it reminded you that someone out there might be underestimated, overlooked, or silently extraordinary, tap like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Red heart. Because sometimes the person everyone ignores is the one holding everything together. Sparkles.